California, 1849. His brother wrote, "Gold, thick as your arm." Elias sailed across oceans, but found no vein, only betrayal, blood, and a cursed Spanish treasure. This isn't a gold rush fairy tale. This is a vendetta. Get comfortable. We're starting the story. San Francisco, California Territory. September, 1849. The sea serpent groaned like a dying beast as it scraped against the wharf, its hull barnacle-crusted from the brutal Pacific crossing. Elias Hawthorne gripped the salt-stiffened railing, his knuckles white against the splintered wood, as the clamor of the Gold Rush harbor assaulted his senses. Fog clung to the bay like a shroud, thick with the reek of rotting fish, unwashed miners, and the acrid smoke of 1,000 campfires. Shouts in a babel of tongues, English, Spanish, Cantonese, Gaelic, mingled with the screech of gulls and the creak of ropes straining under cargo. Canvas tents sprouted like mushrooms along the mud-churned shore, their flaps whipping in the wind while men in threadbare flannel and slouch hats swarmed the docks, bartering for picks, shovels, and the dream of fortune. Elias was 28, broad-shouldered from years hauling timber in the Maine forests, his face weathered beyond its years by sun and sea. His dark hair, matted with sweat, fell across eyes the color of storm-tossed waves, eyes that had stared too long at poverty's unyielding face. In his coat pocket, a crumpled letter burned like a talisman. "Elias, brother, gold lies thick as sin in them hills. Come quick, your fortune awaits." Thomas, the wild one who'd fled Boston 5 years prior with a gambler's grin and a promise to send for the family. Now that promise had dragged Elias across 2 oceans, leaving behind a wife, Mary, heavy with their 3rd child, and a father whose cough echoed like judgment. He shouldered his sea bag, 50 pounds of salt pork, hardtack, a battered Colt revolver, and the family Bible. Mary had pressed into his hands with tear-streaked cheeks. "Promise me you'll return rich enough to bury Pa proper," she'd whispered at the Boston pier, her shawl clutched tight against the autumn chill. Elias had nodded, throat tight, but doubt gnawed at him even then. Gold fever was a siren's call, they said. Many answered, fewer returned whole. Disembarking amid the chaos, Elias dodged a brawl between 2 grizzled prospectors over a spilled sack of beans. One swung a fist, the other parried with a pickaxe haft. "Thief! That's me claim grub!" the attacker bellowed, his breath whiskey sour. Elias sidestepped, boots sinking into the fetid muck that passed for streets. Portsmouth Square lay ahead, a riot of humanity. Chinese laborers in Q pigtails hawking rice and opium, Chilean Chilenos with silver spurs jingling as they hawked horses, overland emigrants gaunt from the Sierra Nevada crossing, begging for passage upriver. He pushed through to the El Dorado gambling tent, its canvas walls pulsing with lantern light and raucous laughter. Inside, the air was blue with cigar smoke, heavy with sweat and desperation. Men hunched over Monte tables, their faces illuminated by flickering whale oil lamps, betting dust, nuggets, and fool's gold. A fiddler sawed at "Oh, Susanna," the tune warped by off-key strings. Elias scanned the crowd for Thomas, tall, red-bearded with a laugh like thunder, but saw only strangers chasing phantoms. "New chum, eh? Fresh off the hook," a voice rasped beside him. Elias turned to find a one-eyed man in a stovepipe hat, his patch embroidered with a crude skull. Jedediah. One-Eye Slade, self-proclaimed king of the claims, extended a grimy hand. "Name's Slade. You looking to stake a piece of the rainbow?" Elias hesitated, then clasped it firmly. "Elias Hawthorne, from Maine. Hunting my brother, Thomas. Said he'd meet me here." Slade's good eye narrowed, milky with cataracts. "Hawthorne, Red Tom. Aye, I know him. Wild one, that. Partnered with a claim up the Yuba River last spring. Struck a vein thick as your arm. Then vanished. Owe me 3 ounces from a faro game. You got gold to settle? Elias's gut twisted. Vanished. What do you mean, vanished? When? 3 months back. After the big flood washed half the diggins. Folks say he lit out for the motherlode with some fancy Easterner. Talk of a map to a lost Spanish mine. Or maybe the claim jumped him. River's full of bones this season. Slade leaned closer, breath like spoiled meat. But I can help you find him, for a price. $20 American, and I'll point you to the right ferryman. Elias's hand brushed the Colt's butt. Trust no one, the captain had warned. San Francisco ate the unwary. 10, and you tell me now. Slade chuckled, revealing blackened stumps. 15, and I'll throw in a claim tip. Feather River's hot. Nuggets the size of hen's eggs if you dodge the wrister boys. They haggled amid the din. Elias forking over 12 silver dollars from his dwindling poke. Mary's wedding ring pawned in Valparaiso to fund the voyage. Slade sketched a crude map on a tobacco-stained napkin. Up the bay to Sacramento, then north to Yuba City. Watch for the widow's cabin, red lantern. She knows all the ghosts. As Elias pocketed the map, a commotion erupted at the faro table. A young woman, no more than 20, stood defiant amid jeers. Her dress was calico, muddied at the hem, auburn hair pinned haphazardly under a bonnet. "That's my claim dust, you card sharp!" she spat, voice cutting like a Bowie knife. The dealer, a pockmarked brute, sneered and palmed her winnings. "Women folk don't stake claims, missy. Git!" Elias watched, transfixed. In this den of wolves, she burned with fire. Before he could think, she lunged, nails raking the dealer's cheek. Chaos exploded. Chairs toppled. Fists flew. The brute backhanded her. She crumpled, blood trickling from her lip. Instinct propelled Elias forward. He grabbed the dealer's arm mid-swing, twisting it with Maine lumberjack strength. Enough. The Colt's barrel pressed cold against the man's temple. The tent hushed. You meddlin' greenhorn!" the dealer gasped. "Take your hands off the lady!" Elias growled. "Or I'll paint this tent red." The crowd murmured approval. Chivalry was rare coin here. The dealer slunk back, nursing his wrist. Elias helped the woman up. Up close, she was striking. Freckles across a pert nose, green eyes flashing defiance. "Lila Kane," she said, wiping blood with her sleeve. "Owe you one, stranger." "Elias Hawthorne, no debt, just hate cheats." She eyed him appraisingly. "Maine, by your talk, you got a stake. Brothers, you? Family claim, near Rough and Ready. Pa died crossin' the plains, typhus. Now the wristers aim to jump it." Her voice cracked, then hardened. "But I ain't leavin'." Slade sidled up, grinning. "Kane's got spine, this one. Her pa panned the Yuba dry afore the flood. You two'd make a team." Elias felt the pull, the map burning in his pocket. Lila's fire mirroring his own desperation. But Mary's face haunted him. Return rich, partnering with a woman in this lawless land. Madness. Yet Thomas's trail led the same way, and Slade's words echoed. Ghosts on the river. Night fell as they stepped outside, the square alive with torchlight and the moans of the shanghaied. Lila pressed a nugget into his palm. Dull, heavy, real. "For savin' my dust. Meet at dawn by the Argonaut ferry if you're game. We share passage, watch each other's backs." Elias stared at the gold, feeling its weight like fate. The fever surged in his veins, not just for riches, but for something wilder. Redemption, perhaps, or ruin. Dawn it is. As she vanished into the fog, Elias unfolded the napkin map under a lantern's glow. A scrawled note at the bottom in Slade's hand. "Beware the Easterner. Calls himself Blackwood. Tom's blood's on him." Heart pounding, Elias shouldered his bag and sought a flophouse cot, the night's symphony of gunshots and horse shouts, lulling him into fitful dreams of buried veins and drowned brothers. Dawn broke gray and merciless. Elias arrived at the wharf as the Argonaut loaded, mules braying, tents collapsing into the hold. Lila waited, sea bag at her feet, a Henry rifle slung across her back. "Ready to chase the rainbow, Hawthorne." He nodded, stepping aboard as the hawser slipped free. The bay receded, the Sierra's promise looming. But in his chest, doubt warred with hunger. Gold or ghosts, fortune or folly. The river would decide. Chapter 2. Shadows on the Yuba-Sacramento City to Yuba River. October 1849. The Argonaut churned up the Sacramento River like an ironclad beast, its paddle wheels thrashing the muddy waters into froth. Elias Hawthorne stood at the rail, the Sierra Nevada's jagged teeth rising on the horizon like accusations from God. Fog had lifted, revealing a landscape of tules and willows, choked with the detritus of the rush. Abandoned wagons, bloated mule carcasses, and the skeletal frames of half-built embarcaderos. Lila Kane leaned beside him, her Henry rifle propped casually, chewing on a twist of tobacco with the nonchalance of a seasoned 49er. "Ever panned before?" she asked, spitting over the side. Her green eyes scanned the banks, ever vigilant. Elias shook his head, the nugget she'd given him heavy in his pocket. "Lumberjack back east. Axes and saws, not sluices. But Thomas rode a vein so rich a man could scoop 'em with his hat." Lila snorted. "Your brother's tales sound like dime novel rot. My pa found color, flecks mostly, but enough to buy seed for a farm. Till the flood." Her voice trailed, gaze distant. Elias noted the scar on her knuckles, white against tanned skin. Oregon Trail survivor, widow of the plains. Stronger than most men here, and twice as wary. The ferry docked at Sacramento amid pandemonium. Merchants hawking flour at $1 a pound. Teamsters cracking whips over ox teams, and a preacher haranguing the crowd about Sodom's fall. "Repent, ye sinners! Gold's the devil's bait!" Elias shouldered their combined gear, his sea bag, her prospecting tools, and they pushed through to the Yuba trailhead. Slade's map promised 2 days' hard march, but rumors swirled of claim jumpers thick as fleas. By noon, they joined a wagon train snaking north. Cornish miners with pasties and pasties, Mexicans with burros laden with quicksilver, and a cluster of Kanakas from Hawaii, their tattoos gleaming. Elias bartered for mules, 2 sway-backed beasts for a gold eagle, and they rode abreast. Lila, leading with rifle at the ready. Conversation flowed haltingly at first. Lila spoke of her pa, a Missouri farmer who'd heeded the call after Sutter's mill. Wagon busted an axle in the Humboldt sink. Half the train died. Pa panned enough for a steak in Rough and Ready. Elias shared his own ghosts, Boston poverty, mill work that ground men to dust, Mary's letters sewn into his Bible, the babe's born, a boy. Name him Thomas if you don't return. Dusk found them at a campfire circle, beans bubbling in a Dutch oven. A grizzled prospector named O'Malley spun yarns of the Yuba. Big Bar's a slaughterhouse, fights over rocker claims every night. And them Rister boys, led by Caleb Rister, mean as a grizzly with the toothache. Jumped a dozen claims last moon. Lila stiffened. Elias caught her glance toward the shadows. Sleep came fitful under starry skies pierced by coyote howls. Elias dreamed of rivers running gold, morphing to blood. Thomas's face, pale and accusatory, mouthing Blackwood. Dawn's light brought trouble. As they saddled up, Hoofbeats thundered. 5 riders burst from the brush, whiskered cutthroats in greasy buckskins, led by a bull-necked man with a scarred cheek and eyes like slate. Caleb Rister himself, 6-shooter gleaming. "Well, if it ain't Lila Kane and her greenhorn swain," Rister drawled, spitting tobacco juice. "Heard you lost your dust last night. Pa's claims ours now, papers filed in Marysville." Lila's rifle snapped up. "Liar. Pa's deeds recorded in Sacramento. Get off our trail." Rister laughed, his men fanning out. "Papers? In this wilderness? Might makes right, girlie. Hand over the mules and gear or we'll plant you both." Elias's hand went to the Colt, heart hammering. 5 against 2. Bad odds. Lila whispered, "Wait for the shot." The air crackled with tension, mules snorting. Rister spurred forward, hand twitching toward his gun. Crack! Lila's Henry boomed, the bullet shearing Rister's hat brim. He jerked back, cursing as his horse reared. "You witch! Boys, take 'em!" Chaos erupted. Elias fired twice, dropping one rider's mount. The man tumbled, howling. Lila reloaded with blurring speed, her second shot grazing another's arm. Mules bolted, gear scattering. Elias vaulted into saddle, grabbing Lila's arm. "Ride!" They galloped into the scrub, bullets whining past like vengeful hornets. Miles later, lungs burning, they reined in at a creek. Lila dismounted, checking for wounds. "Clean miss on Rister. He'll hunt us now." Elias nodded, adrenaline fading to grim resolve. Slade mentioned Blackwood. "You know him?" Her face darkened. "Eastern dandy. Arrived last spring with fancy assays and a claim map. Partnered with your brother. Then Thomas vanished. Folks whisper Blackwood's crew works nights. Too quiet for honest diggin'." They pressed on, reaching Yuba City by eve. A ramshackle boomtown of tents and saloons, the river roiling chocolate brown from upstream rains. At the widow's cabin, red lantern swaying, they knocked. The door creaked open to reveal a crone with eyes like polished obsidian. Widow McGee, bearer of secrets. "Strangers seeking ghosts," she cackled, ushering them in. Over chicory coffee, she spilled, "Red Tom and Blackwood struck Bonanza Bar mile up river. Nuggets like goose eggs. Then the flood, October 1st. Tom's body never surfaced, but Blackwood pulled out a poke, heavy as sin. Now he runs a store in Rough and Ready, buying claims cheap." Lila leaned forward. "Rister work for him?" "Aye. Blackwood's the spider, Rister the fang." The widow slid a folded paper across. "A claim deed, Thomas's hand. Found it in the mud. Says Elias. Trust no suits. The veins cursed. B." Elias's blood ran cold. B. Blackwood. Betrayal. Fury coiled in his gut. Thomas dead or worse. Betrayed by a partner. Night deepened as they camped by the Yuba's roar. Lila stood watch. Elias pored over the deed by firelight. A map sketched in margins, twisted arrow to lost vein, Spanish cash, but scrawled warning, Rister knows. Flood hides the killin'. Hoofbeats echoed. Rister's gang? No. A lone rider. One eye Slade. Hat askew. Hawthorne. Words out. Rister's riled. Blackwood's holed up in Rough and Ready, guardin' something fierce. You goin' in? Elias met Lila's gaze. "We are. For Thomas. For the claim." Slade grinned wolfishly. "Then gear up. Dawn raid. But watch Blackwood. He ain't what he seems." As flames died, Elias clutched the deed. Gold called, but vengeance burned hotter. The river whispered secrets, and the mountains watched. What curse hid in that vein? And who was Blackwood, really? Chapter 3. Shadows on the Yuba Yuba River Canyon, California. October 1849. The Argonaut had chugged up the fog-choked Sacramento River like an ironclad beast, belching steam and soot into the crisp autumn air, before disgorging its human cargo at the ramshackle port of Nicholas. From there, Elias and Lila had shouldered their packs and joined a mule train snaking into the Sierra foothills. 200 souls in a dusty serpent of humanity, driven by the same insatiable hunger. The trail was a quagmire of mule shit and broken dreams, rutted by overladen wagons that splintered under the weight of anvils, sluice boxes, and barrels of Monongahela rye. Overhead, ponderosa pines clawed at a sky bruised purple by gathering storms, their needles whispering omens of the winter to come. Elias trudged beside Lila, his boots caked with ochre mud, the Henry rifle, a comforting weight across his shoulders. 10 days since San Francisco, and the alliance forged in the El Dorado tent had hardened like quicksilver amalgam. Lila Kane was no fragile flower. She mucked stalls at dawn, bartered tobacco with teamsters in flawless Spanish, and outshot him at prairie chicken with her Sharps carbine. Yet beneath her banter lurked shadows. Nights by campfires where she'd stare into the flames, murmuring of Pa's grave marker, lost to Platte River floods. "You ever wonder if it's all a fool's errand?" Elias asked one evening, as the train halted in a meadow scarred by abandoned diggings. Stars pricked the velvet sky. Coyotes yipped defiance from the ridges. Lila spat into the fire, her green eyes reflecting the blaze. "Every damn day. Pa said gold's like a woman, teases, then leaves you broken beggin'. But I ain't turnin' back. Rough and Ready's just over the divide. My claim's there, or what's left of it." She tossed him a strip of jerked venison, tough as boot leather. "What about you, Maine? Still chasin' Red Tom's ghost?" Elias chewed thoughtfully, the map from Slade folded in his breast pocket like a guilty secret. "Thomas ain't a ghost yet. Slade's note mentioned Blackwood, an Easterner. Suits maybe with maps to Spanish hordes. If Tom's alive, he's knee-deep in that mess. He didn't mention the dreams. Thomas laughing from a riverbank, hands glittering with placer gold, then vanishing in a torrent of mud-brown water. Their conversation cut short by a shout from the lead wagon. "Rista riders, coming down the trail!" Panic rippled through the camp like wind through dry grass. The Risters, claim-jumping scum who'd terrorized the northern mines since '48, rode hard from the east, 6 of them on lathered Mustangs, dust devils trailing their spurs. Led by Caleb Rister, a scar-faced Missourian with a reputation for bushwhacking and worse. They were the law, where none existed. "Scatter!" bellowed the wagon boss, a bearded Arkansan named Zeke. Mules brayed, women clutched children, men fumbled for sidearms. Elias yanked Lila behind a boulder outcrop as lead whistled overhead. "Stay low!" A bullet chipped granite inches from his ear, showering them with shards. Lila chambered around in her Henry, eyes steely. "Bastard's been after my deed since Pa died. That's Caleb, the one with the snake tattoo." The Risters wheeled into the clearing, Caleb reining up on a piebald stallion, his bandana pulled low. "Hawthorne! Kane! We know you're headed Yuba way. Hand over the map and maybe we let you walk." Elias's blood iced. How'd they know the map? Slade. He rose, Colt drawn, using a toppled pine as cover. "What map? We're just pilgrims!" Caleb laughed, a sound like gravel in a tin pan. "Red Tom sang like a canary 'fore we strung him up. Said his brother's comin' with Slade's scribble, leads straight to the Blackwood cache. Spanish silver, boys, enough to buy Frisco twice over." His men fanned out, Winchesters glinting. Thomas, strung up. The world tilted. Rage boiled in Elias's veins, hotter than any pan fire. "You lying dog!" he fired, the Colt's bark echoing. Caleb's hat spun away. The Missourian cursed, returning fire. Hell erupted. Gunsmoke choked the air. Mules screamed as bullets found flesh. Lila's Henry cracked methodically. One Rister tumbled from saddle, clutching his thigh. Zeke and a dozen miners rallied, forming a ragged skirmish line. "For California!" someone yelled. Elias reloaded on the run, flanking left toward a dry creek bed. A Rister youth, barely bearded, blocked his path, Bowie knife flashing. Elias parried with his rifle barrel, driving a knee into the boy's gut. They grappled in the dirt, the knife slicing Elias's forearm, a hot line of fire. With a roar, he bashed the buttstock into the boy's temple. He went limp. "Lila!" Elias shouted, spotting her pinned by two Risters near the creek. Caleb loomed over her, lasso noosed around her neck. Time slowed. Elias charged, emptying his Colt. One slug grazed Caleb's shoulder. The rope slackened. Lila twisted free, stabbing upward with her boot knife. Straight into the jumper's thigh. Blood sprayed. He howled. Caleb wheeled his stallion, face twisted in fury. "This ain't over, Hawthorne. The river'll claim you both." The Risters retreated, dragging wounded, vanishing into the dusk like wraiths. The camp tallied costs at moonrise. 3 dead miners, a dozen grazed, 5 mules gut-shot. Zeke clapped Elias's back. "You're a lion, stranger. Lila, too. Yuba's a day's march. Watch your backs." As they bandaged wounds by firelight, Lila stitched Elias's gash with sinew thread, her touch steady. "Thomas, if Caleb spoke true, he's lying. Has to be." But doubt festered. Elias unfolded the map under starlight. Faded ink traced the Yuba's bends to a forked canyon. Blackwood's cache, buried 47. Beware the widow. A new marking, fresh pencil. Rister's no. Trust no one. Lila peered over. Widow's cabin. Red lantern, like Slade said. Pa mentioned her. Nora Blackwood, Eastern widow running a boarding house. Folks say she's cursed. Lures men to watery graves. Elias nodded, folding it away. Mary's Bible weighed heavy in his pack, a talisman against lies. Dawn, we push on, together. Sleep came fitful, haunted by Thomas's phantom laugh and Caleb's scar grin. At first light, the train reformed, ghosts of the dead fading behind. The Yuba Canyon yawned ahead, its waters roaring like judgment, mist-shrouded cliffs hiding secrets of gold and gore. By noon, they crested the divide. Rough and Ready sprawled below, a tent city of 5,000, canvas flapping amid mud streets lined with grog shops, fandango halls, and assay offices. Smoke from rocker boxes curled skyward. The river thundered, swollen by recent rains, its banks pocked with diggings. Lila's claim lay on the North Fork, a 160-acre rectangle marked by 4 stakes. They arrived to ruin. Sluices smashed, rocker overturned. Earth churned like a fresh grave. "Risters," Lila whispered, kneeling by a splintered deed post. Elias scanned the tree line. Nothing, but a red lantern hung from a cabin on the opposite bluff. The widow's. Inside the widow's lair that evening, Nora Blackwood poured coffee strong as tar, her black bombazine dress rustling like dry leaves. 50-ish, porcelain-skinned with raven hair streaked silver, eyes like polished jet. Hawthorne and Kane. Word travels fast on the Yuba. Risters send regards. Elias tensed, hand near Colt. "You know us," she smiled, thin-lipped. "Thomas spoke of you, Elias, before the accident. And Lila's pa boarded here. Sit. Maps and men find their way to me." She slid a tin of biscuits across the scarred table. "Blackwood's my late husband. Prospected these hills in 47. Left me instructions." Lila leaned forward. "The cash, Spanish silver." Nora's eyes flickered. "Aye, but cursed. Thomas found a pinch, enough to buy drinks. Then the flood took him. Risters blame me. I blame fate." She traced a scar on her palm. "Join my boarders tomorrow. Pan the shallows. Secrets surface with the gold." Elias studied her. "Truth a trap. Thomas's body. River keeps its own." Her gaze softened. "Like it will yours if you chase shadows." That night in the widow's loft, Elias dreamed of Mary, her hand on swollen belly, whispering, "Come home." He woke sweating, the map clutched tight. Lila slept below, rifle propped like a sentinel. Dawn brought rain, sheets lashing the canyon, turning diggings to soup. Boarders assembled, grizzled Mexicans with batea pans, Cornish pump men, a Chinese crew with rockers. Elias and Lila staked beside a riffle pool, the river raging chocolate brown. Hours blurred, shovel gravel, swirl water, tease flakes from black sand. Lila whooped at her first color, a pea-sized nugget. Pa's vein lives. Elias's pan yielded dust, enough for beans. But as dusk fell, his rocker snagged on something hard. He dug, prying free a leather pouch, waterlogged but intact. Inside, a gold chain, Thomas's, engraved 2E, from T. Boston, 44, and a note, ink-bled but legible, Blackwood lies, cash is trap, Risters own the widow, flee. Hard hammering, Elias hit it. Nora approached, lantern glowing red. Findings, dust, he lied, forcing calm. She nodded, eyes probing. Good, tomorrow the fork, deeper water. Lila caught his glance, wary now. As they trudged to the cabin, thunder growled. The Yuba rose, hungry. Night deepened, snores filled the loft. Elias slipped out, meeting Lila by the woodpile. Thomas lived, widows with Risters. We grab proof, ride for sheriff in Marysville. She nodded, gripping her Henry. My claim, too. Burn the deed if we must. They crept to Nora's parlor, lantern dim. Drawers yielded nothing. Then, under floorboards, a strong box, locked. Lila pried. It sprang. Inside, deeds, Lila's claim, Thomas's, and letters, Nora, deliver Hawthorne, cash ours. CR betrayal, confirmed. But footsteps crunched outside. Caleb's voice. Widow, we got company. Gunfire shattered the night. Elias shoved Lila through a window as Risters stormed. Lead splintered door frames. Nora screamed, caught in crossfire. They bolted into the storm, river roaring approval. Mudslide, cliffs crumbling. Lila slipped. Elias hauled her up. Behind, flames licked the cabin, widow's pyre. Dawn found them in a hidden cove, exhausted. Nugget poke lighter but resolve steel. Marysville, Elias gasped. Justice, but hoofbeats echoed. Risters regrouping. The chase was on, Gold's shadow lengthening. Chapter 4, Veins of Vengeance, Yuba River Canyon, Sierra Nevada foothills, October 1849. The Argonaut had chugged up the fog-choked Sacramento River like an ironclad ghost, disgorging its cargo of fevered souls at the ramshackle port of Sacramento City. A fever blister of tents and timber shanties squatting amid malarial swamps. From there, Elias and Lila had pressed north on muleback, following Slade's napkin map through alkali dust and sagebrush flats. The Sierra Nevada, rising like jagged teeth against the bruised autumn sky. Now, 2 weeks later, the Yuba River Canyon gripped them in its stony jaws. Sheer granite walls veined with quartz, plummeting to a torrent that roared with glacial fury, swollen from October rains. Waterfalls cascaded in silver ribbons, misting the air with chill that seeped into bones. Their camp clung to a precarious ledge, a cluster of 3 tents amid rockfalls and stunted pines, where the widow's red lantern flickered like a beacon for lost men. Widow Harlan, gaunt and gray-eyed, with hands calloused from panning, had traded them provisions for labor, mending sluices, hauling ore. Her cabin squatted nearby, walls chinked with mud, roofed in canvas. Thomas Hawthorne camped here last, she'd rasped over chicory coffee, her voice a gravel whisper. Struck color in the devil's pocket. Big nuggets, Spanish coin too. Then Blackwood came, slick as oil, that Easterner. Talked to a motherlode map from Fremont's surveys. They lit out together after the scream in the night. Her eyes darted to the canyon shadows where coyotes yipped. Elias shoveled pay dirt into the long tom, a wooden trough rigged with riffles, while Lila riffled the gravel with practiced fury. Nuggets winked in the rocker box, pea-sized, thumb-sized, enough to fund a claim stake and Mary's passage west. But the vein played out by noon, leaving only colors, faint gold dust, mocking their toil. "Flakes," Lila spat, wiping mud from her freckled cheeks. Pa called it tease gold, keeps you diggin' till you starve. Her Henry rifle leaned against a boulder, ever ready. The Rister boys' threats echoed from rough-and-ready saloons. Nights brought counsel by firelight. Elias traced the map's faded lines. Devil's Pocket lay a half-day's scramble upstream, past rapids called Widowmaker. Blackwood's name scratched in fresh ink. Slade's warning. Tom's blood on him. Lila shared her burden. Pa's claim papers, yellowed and blood-stained from the cholera trail. "Risters burned our deed. Say women can't hold title, but I got witnesses. Overlanders who saw Pa stake it." Elias's Colt gleamed in the flames. Lila's fingers brushed his as she passed the coffee pot. A spark amid the cold. Dawn of the third day broke with murder. A prospector stumbled into camp, gut-shot, gasping. Risters ambushed the trail. Blackwood's with him. Took Tom's poke. He slumped dead, eyes staring at the uncaring sky. Widow Harlan crossed his arms, muttering scripture. "Vultures circle, Devil's Pocket calls the damned." Elias and Lila struck out at once, mules laden with powder, picks, and grudges. The trail snaked up talus slopes, wind howling through slot canyons like banshee wails. Elias's mind churned. Thomas, the brother who'd gambled their inheritance on cards, now perhaps bones in a crevice. Mary's letter, tucked in his Bible, haunted. "If not gold, come home with your soul." Lila rode close, her voice cutting the gale. "You love her still, that wife in Maine?" "Like breath," Elias admitted, reins taut. "But Tom's all the family I got left. And you're fire in this frozen hell." She blushed under dirt, green eyes fierce. "Fire burns claims clean. We'll take what's ours." Midday brought the pocket. A horseshoe gorge where the Yuba boiled through house-sized boulders, quartz outcrops glittering like veins in marble flesh. Abandoned sluices sagged, tools rusting. A fresh dig scarred the cliff face, 20 feet deep, timbers shored against collapse. Smoke curled from a cave mouth above. Rister camp. They picketed the mules in alders, bellies low, and crept forward. Elias's heart thundered. Lila's rifle whispered oiled menace. Peering from cover, they spied 5 men, the Risters, brothers Zeke, Caleb, and 3 gun hands, lolling by a fire, roasting venison. And Blackwood, tall, sallow-faced in broadcloth suit, absurd amid the grit, gold watch chain glinting. His voice carried cultured Boston clip. "Gentlemen, the map confirms it. Cortez's bullion, lost since 43. Hawthorne found the strike. Now it's ours." Zeke Rister, bull-necked with a scar-split lip, hawked a laugh. "That red fool's fertilizing the river. Split the nuggets square." Blackwood's smile was serpent-slick. "Square as a preacher's promise. But first the woman, Cain's claim deeds. Burn 'em proper." Elias's blood iced. Lila gripped his arm, whispering, "There's Tom's Henry, propped by the fire. Proof." Gunfire shattered the moment. A Rister sentry spotted them. Lead whined off quartz. "Intruders! The main man and the skirt!" Chaos erupted. Elias thumbed the Colt's hammer, dropping the sentry with a headshot. Boom, echoing like judgment. Lila's Henry cracked, splintering a pine. Zeke yelped, clutching a grazed thigh. They dove for cover as slugs chewed boulders, ricocheting in deadly whine. "Flush 'em out!" Caleb bellowed, priming a Sharp's buffalo gun. Elias and Lila retreated to a draw. backs to wall. "We can't take 5, Lila panted, reloading. "Need the high ground." Elias nodded, eyes on the cave ledge, 30 feet up, precarious. "You cover, I'll flank." She kissed him fierce, tasting of grit and resolve. "Don't die, Hawthorne. Mary's waitin'." He scaled the cliff like a spider, fingers bleeding on lichen-slick holds, Colt tucked in belt. Atop, he belly-crawled to overlook. Blackwood directed fire, calm as a banker. Zeke limped below, clutching a poke spilling nuggets. Thomas's gold. Elias fired. Blackwood spun, clutching shoulder, watch chain snapping. "Murderer!" Elias roared, sliding down in avalanche of scree. The wristers scattered. Lila picked off a gun hand, clean through the chest. Caleb charged Elias with Bowie drawn. Elias parried. Colt, butt-cracking skull. Zeke fired wild, then bolted for horses. Blackwood staggered up, Derringer flashing. "Hawthorne, brother's kin. He sold the map for opium debt. Begged me to mercy kill him after the cave-in crushed his legs. Liar. Or truth?" Elias hesitated. Bullet grazed his ribs, fire-lancing. Lila's shot felled Blackwood. Center mass. Easterner crumpling like soiled silk. Zeke escaped into rapids, but the poke lay spilled. Nuggets, Spanish doubloons, and Thomas's signet ring, blood-crusted. Elias sank to knees, grief crashing like the Yuba. Lila knelt beside, hand on shoulder. "He's gone, but we got proof. Claims ours." Widow Harlan's testimony. Lila's deeds, the ring. Enough for assay office justice in Sacramento. They packed the gold, 3,000 clean. Enough for Mary's farm. Lila's stake. Vengeance sealed. Winter snows blanketed the Sierra as they descended, partners in fortune and fire. Elias penned Mary. Gold found, brother buried proper. Coming home with a new light. Lila rode stirrup to stirrup, green eyes on horizons. The fever broke, but legends lingered in the canyon whispers. Yet in Sacramento's assay glow, a shadow stirred. Zeke Rister's wanted poster, vowing return. The vein ran deeper still.